Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Jenny Dildine, the LDS Mission Coach, and you are listening to the LDS Mission Podcast, episode number 82, The Thought Download. I'm Jenny, the LDS Mission Coach, and whether you are preparing to serve a mission, currently serving, a returned missionary, or a missionary mama like me, I created this podcast just for you. Are you searching for epic confidence, ready to love yourself and to learn the how of doing hard things? Then let's go. I will help you step powerfully into your potential and never question your purpose again. It's time to embrace yourself, embrace your mission, embrace your life, and embrace what's next. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate every single one of you that is listening, sending so much love to the missionaries all over the world and you missionary moms and dads who are invested in the mental and emotional well-being of your kids, and for you missionaries that are invested in the mental and emotional well-being of yourself. And you returned missionaries, it can be a tough transition, am I right? So thanks for being here, and thanks for being invested in you. You guys are amazing, and I just feel so lucky and honored to be able to hang out with you each week. It's pretty awesome. I wanted to remind you that my podcast, this podcast that you're listening to right now, originally I was sharing it on Facebook because there was a little stint of time where Facebook was hosting podcasts, and they're no longer doing that, which is fine. Facebook gets to do what they want to do. I am not mad about it at all, but instead I have decided to just share all of the goodness on this podcast with missionaries via Google Drive. So if you think that this stuff that you're listening to might be useful to one of your friends that's on a mission, or your son or daughter that's on a mission, or your brother or sister that's on a mission, all you have to do is just send me an email. I actually created a new email specifically for podcast requests. So the email is just podcast@jennydildine.com. Remember, Jenny's always spelled with an I-E. So just podcast@jennydildine.com. If you want to, just go ahead and pause this podcast really quick and just shoot me an email on your phone or wherever you are. Let's get as much help out to as many missionaries as possible. Periodically, I'll have moms or missionaries reach out and say, hey, I have a son or daughter struggling with this. Or a missionary will say, I'm struggling with this certain thing. Do you have any podcasts you can recommend? And we have such a collection on here now, which is so awesome, that it's just like, yeah. If you're struggling with a companion, I have about 10 I can recommend. Or if you're struggling with anxiety, here's another 10 I can recommend. There's just so much goodness on here, and I love that we have a way to reach these missionaries who are currently serving. So if that's interesting to you, again, just shoot me an email, podcast@jennydildine.com. Okay, I want to dive in today to what I want to talk to you about. And today might be a little bit of a shorter podcast episode, which is great and fine. And kind of, I know a lot of you are have a lot of things you're working on right now. So I don't want this to be like one more thing that you feel like you have to do. But I do want to teach you this tool, the Thought Download, so that you have a resource or a way for you to gain more awareness for what's going on in your life, and a way for you to kind of get a little bit of a sneak peek into your own brain. When I meet with my clients, the one-on-one clients, and also in my RM group program, when they're just talking to me, they give me a verbal thought download. And so what I do as their coach and in those sessions is we start to work through some of these beliefs, some of these thoughts that they have about themselves, so that they can start to show up more powerfully in their lives, which is super fun. I mean, I've seen some amazing transformations happen. But if for some reason, like you can't get a coach and, coaching is, the timing's not right for coaching, I want to give you this tool so that you can learn how to start to coach yourself. So this sort of came to my mind because I saw a question come through on this other program that I work in, Be Bold, with Jody Moore. I do a little bit of work in there for her. And today a question came through that said, what is the best way to journal and get more awareness for what's going on for me? What is the most productive or useful way to journal? And so that is why I want to teach you the thought download process. Now, before I do any of that, I want to kind of speak to this idea where she said, what is the most productive way? Did you know that productive is just a thought or a belief that you have about something? There is no way to judge or to take a blood test or to measure productiveness. So I just want to start off by saying, like, whatever you do, anything that you do, whether you're doing this thought download or journaling or whatever, there's no right or wrong way to do it. If you just decide this is going to be productive, it will be. Okay, you can just choose to look at it that way. And I don't want anyone to think there's a wrong way to do this or there's a right way to do it, or I don't want any of us to get like into perfectionistic tendencies around this thought download. It is simply a tool for you to do that you can't do right or wrong to create more awareness for yourself. So let me tell you how the thought download process works and what it looks like. You can go ahead and set a timer for 5 minutes. Now, I was talking to my assistant the other day, or she sent me a message or something, and she said, I always feel like 5 minutes is a really long time for me. And that might feel like 5 minutes is a long time. So if 5 minutes feels like a long time, you could start with 3, but I want to challenge you to try 5. One of the reasons that it feels uncomfortable is because we don't always love being alone with our thoughts and what we're thinking. Sometimes we don't like what we see in there. So I'm going to get to that in a little bit, some rules that I have for you. But if you can't do 5, start with 3, move your way up to 5. And what you do is you set a 5-minute timer and you get a piece of paper and you just start writing. So you might be writing like, this thing happened today, this is what I saw, this is what I felt, this is what I observed. And you just kind of go on like that and you just write. Now, you might get to a point where your brain is sort of like, I don't know what to write. And then you can write that too. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Until something else kind of comes up in your mind. Think of it like we're going to just like take an inventory of everything that's happening in your brain. Now, once the 5-minute timer goes off, what you can do is you can separate out the facts from the thoughts. Now, let me remind you about what the definitions of each of those things are so that you can be better equipped to separate out these two things. So facts, the definition I have for you, could be proven in a court of law. Everybody would agree. There's no bias in them, no opinion in them. They're not like loaded in any way. Okay, the facts are just basically everything that happens outside of us. Thoughts, the definition that I have for you, is just a sentence in my mind. So our brain like observes what's happening outside of us, and then a little synapse connects in our brain and we have a thought. Okay, and as we've dug into many times in this podcast, that thought creates a feeling, but we're not diving into any of that right now. Just for the purpose of this exercise, you're going to start to separate the facts from the thoughts. Now, you can do this with a highlighter. I love sharing this process with missionaries who are currently serving, because all of you know that they have the most awesome pens and highlighters, okay? And maybe if you're in school, you have a lot of awesome pens and highlighters. So you can either highlight or underline or circle or just put F and T, whatever you want to do to start separating out the facts from the thoughts. Let me give you an example of one that might feel a little bit like sneaky. I'm going to say this to you, and you can in your mind tell me, is it a fact or a thought? So how about this? My friend lives really far away. Is that a fact or is that a thought? This can be really tricky, right? But notice how friend could be interpreted a lot of different ways. Like what friend means to me could be different than what friend means to you. Really far away can be interpreted a lot of different ways. Like what I think is really far away could be different than what you think is really far away. So my friend lives really far away is actually not a fact. It is a thought. Now, if I was talking to my clients and we were in a session, we might try to figure out like, okay, so if that's a thought, how could we make it more factual? But just for the purpose of you starting to separate that out, just be on to your brain a little bit when it's like, no, this is true. This is just a fact. Okay. And again, you can't do it wrong. It's just all for your use. What about this one? Is this a fact or a thought? Max lives 424 miles away. What about this one? My companion said these words, and then you put them in quotes, like you don't know what you're doing, quote unquote. That we potentially could say is a fact, because it could be proven in a court of law. If we had a tape recorder or a video recorder or something like that, we could prove that that actually happened. So instead of putting in like a fact, this person was mean to me or my companion was mean, the fact would be my companion said this, quote unquote. Okay. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea about how to start to separate out facts from thoughts. Let me give you a couple more examples. What about this? Someone should never be late to work. A person should never be late to work. Is that a fact or is that a thought? That's actually a thought, because is there ever a time where someone should be late to work? What if their dog died? What if they got in a car accident? Like that is just a belief. Now, if you want to keep that belief, great. You can totally keep that belief. If it serves you, if it creates emotions that you like, awesome. But it's not a fact that you shouldn't be late to work. Okay. Awesome. All right. I think you guys get the idea. So you've done the 5 minutes. You've written. At the very end, you're going to go through, you're going to separate out the facts from the thoughts. Now, here's the power in doing this, is you're going to start to show your brain what you have power over. Now, I can't remember if I've mentioned this on this podcast or not, but a lot of people like to use the word control. This is now what I have control over, my thoughts. And I don't love that way of thinking about it, because we also have this lower brain that's going to offer us all kinds of things all the time to keep us safe and to keep us small and protected and conserve energy, all of that good stuff that you've heard me talk about before. So instead, the words I like to use are, I will start to see what I have power over, what I have influence over, and what I have agency over. Those are your thoughts. You have power, influence, and agency over what you think and what you believe. All the other stuff, the facts, we can't always change. Now, sometimes we can change them. Like if someone doesn't like their roommate and they want to move apartments, They totally can, right? You can change the fact. Now I live at this address instead of this address. But often what we find is easiest and the most empowering is to change the way we think and the thoughts that we are having. All right. So, a couple things to keep in mind. First little tip I want to give you is sometimes in your thought download, you'll run into a feeling like sad, overwhelmed, lonely, frustrated, excited. If you want to kind of mark those in some other way, maybe circle or star them, totally can, not necessary to still have the effectiveness of this exercise of separating out facts from thoughts. So a couple other tips for you is sometimes when I sit down to do a thought download, what it ends up being instead is like a to-do list download. Like I got to remember to do that. And we can't forget to talk to those people about meeting us at church on Sunday. And I can't forget to apply for that job. And in order to get a good grade on my test, I've got to make sure I study for this, right? All of us, whatever stage we're in, maybe we're preparing missionary. I can't forget to buy my shoes or fill out this thing on the mission portal or whatever. Sometimes when you sit down, you're going to start to find your brain's like, oh, let's do a to-do dump download instead. If that's the case, go ahead and just write everything out that you got to get done. And then go ahead and jump in, set the 5 minutes, and then start your thought download from there. Okay. The other tip I have for you is if there's just nothing kind of flowing, there's nothing like really coming up for you, give yourself a prompt at the top of the page. Like, how am I feeling about my mission? Maybe you're getting ready to leave. Like, how do I feel about my mission? Is there anything I'm worried about? If you're on your mission, maybe it's like, how do I feel about that that friend who we were teaching that now ghosts us, right? Or like, what do I make that mean about me? Like, where am I at emotionally and mentally? Or maybe if we're home, like, it could be like, how do I feel like I'm doing in the dating scene? Or what do I believe about what the best major will be for me, right? Or what do I want to study? Or what would be the most awesome job to take? Or how am I feeling about my family right now? So you can just put kind of a guiding thing, a guiding principle or prompt at the top of your page if that is what feels like it might get some things kind of moving. And again, we're not like digging for anything right here. We don't have to like dig deep or like try to dig up any dirt or anything like that. We just get to kind of see what's up there. So unless you have a life coach who helps you look at your thoughts, you might not do this very often, like take an inventory or get some awareness around what you're thinking. So this is just kind of a fun thing to do. Another tip I have for you is you might not want to do this in your mission journal, the one that you're going to like share with your kids and all of your posterity or have printed or anything like that. Because it tends to be a lot of like random things. I remember I was coaching a returned missionary and she was from Louisiana and she said that she was driving by like a pond or something and she was in the back seat while her brother was driving around. She was doing her thought download and she was sort of like, I wonder if there's an alligator in that pond. And so she wrote that down. So it kind of can be all over the place and that's totally fine, right? The benefit comes at the end when you get to start separating out facts and thoughts, facts and thoughts, facts and thoughts. The last tip, and dare I say rule, and again, I've already told you can't do this wrong, but if there is one rule, there's no judgment allowed. As you start to notice all this stuff come up, like maybe there's a thought on there that you don't love, like maybe like, I'm not good enough, or I don't like my body, or I'm really frustrated with my companion, or whatever it is, or I don't love where I'm working right now, or I'm not even sure if I want to complete my degree, right? When any of that stuff comes up, you're not allowed to judge it. Instead, what I want to offer to you to do is to put on your scientist hat. You're just taking inventory. You're noticing with curiosity what is going on. No judgment allowed. And even when you're separating out facts and thoughts, just let it all come out. Instead of being judgmental, have compassion and love. It sounds a little bit like this, like, I didn't know that was on my mind. I didn't know I was thinking about that way. That's so good to know. Okay. One time I did this every day for 6 months. Facts, thoughts. 5-minute download, facts, thoughts. 5-minute download, facts, thoughts. And I have a whole notebook full of all of those like several notebooks actually full of my thought downloads. Now, you might think, well, what's the point? We're not really digging deep. But what we start to do is we start to show our brains, that lower caveman brain, this is what I have power, influence, and agency over, and this is what I don't. And as we do that over and over and over again, we become and we give ourselves more power in our lives, and we start to see the whole world like that. This is what I'm in charge of. This is what I can let go. This other thing, I get to be in charge of that, and this I can let go, right? And it's just such a fun way to see the world and such an empowering place to be. So I hope you take a minute and just try this thought download and see if it helps you, if you can get into a habit of it, see if it kind of changes the way you see the world, changes the way you see other people, and changes the way you see yourself. All right, everyone, have the most amazing week. We will see you next time. Take care. Serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can present a unique set of challenges. And many of those challenges you might not even see coming. So you're going to want a unique set of solutions. It's easier than you think to overcome worry and anxiety, serve the successful mission you've always dreamed of, and navigate your post-mission experience with confidence. That is why I created some amazing free goodies that I'm sharing in my show notes. Maybe you'll want to grab the free training for preparing missionaries, my video course for RMs, or maybe you and I should hop on a free strategy call. If you're ready to take your preparedness to serve or your preparedness to come home to the next level, then go grab one of those freebies. And in the meantime, no matter which part of the mission experience you are involved in, just know that Jenny, the LDS mission coach, is thinking about you every single day.